All right, we're on air. Welcome to episode number 52 of Bleeding Blue. And today we are going to be talking Giants with the best damn fan podcast covering the Giants out there. Bobby Skinner and Danny Boy King from Talkin' Giants are here. So, without further ado, let's talk Giants. And Bobby, what are we going to do?
Let's bleed blue.
That's great.
That was wonderful. That was wonderful.
That was enthusiasm. That's
right.
9:30 at night.
Yeah, we are doing this at 9:30 at night. So David, that's been a theme of ours lately.
Yeah,
let's just record. Let's just record late at night so we get the loopy versions of all four of us. All right, so how's everyone doing? Danny Boy King, we're going to start with you, and then we'll go down the line here. How's everybody doing entering into this space? What's your headspace like entering into this conversation?
My headspace is very clear right now. I mean, I have no idea how this is going to go. This could go extremely well, or we could say something that gets us all in trouble. So it's one of the two, but I'm doing good on this. What's today? Wednesday night. Wednesday night as we're filming this.
Yeah, 9:30 at night with four people who all relatively know each other and are coming together to collab on something. You know, who knows what's going to happen, but I'm excited for it. David _Powis, how are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you plugging my Twitter handle.
Yes.
I'm good. Doing well. I really can't handle these late night podcasts though, Justin. We got to work on this. This is too much for me. But my headspace is clear.
Last but not least, Bobby Skinner.
I'm doing good, fellas. Glad to finally be on, in a good mood on the way. I was just driving home and making weird noises to myself. So that's how you know I got good energy. I just driving down the street going, did it do? And that's I always know when I'm in a good mood when I'm doing that. Instead of telling the radio people to shut up. That's when I'm in a good mood. So I'm glad to be here, guys.
All right, I love it. I feel like this has been I feel like it's been a long time coming because I feel like Bobby, we just got finished with. I was featured on Talkin' Giants. Now I want to say this. First of all, I want to thank you, but here are the names that have been featured on the Talkin' Giants podcast so far. Rich Seibert, a Super Bowl champion, a two-time Super Bowl champion. Am I correct in saying a two-time Super Bowl champion?
He actually left the year before the second one, but I still feel like he was a part of that team somehow.
Right. So metaphorically, he has two Super Bowl rings, but physically he has one. Yeah. Brandon Jacobs is a two-time Super Bowl champion. Both of those players have been interviewed on Talkin' Giants. Two of the best beat reporters, Dan Duggan and Dan Schneier, have also been interviewed on Talkin' Giants and featured on Talkin' Giants. And then lastly, but not least, but I would say least. I would actually say least.
No, the least was John Hilleman running.
No. Here it is.
I've come to know that, like, listen, I take what I can get with interviews. I love to get player interviews, but a lot of times, you have an undrafted rookie free agent, and like they can't say anything dumb, but they won't say anything. They've been taught to say nothing at all. Mm-hmm. So I'll be like I remember in that interview, I was like, hey man, like at rookie camp, any of those other guys like stick out to you? He's like, no, I will just focus on myself. I'm like, really, man? Like there was not one other guy you noticed at the rookie camp? So I just ended it at 8 minutes. So we went like 30 minutes. So that's how you know I was having a good time.
The funny thing is that I actually went to high school with Jonathan Hillman.
Was he as boring then as he was on our interview?
I never spoke to him. He was a very good football player.
He was just focusing on himself.
Justin, yeah, he was too boring for you to be hanging out with. That's what it was.
Yeah, he was definitely too boring. I'm too much of an exciting person. All right,
yes.
And you forgot Tay Davis, who I interviewed at the Pro Bowl. And 45-degree rain in the back of like a little smart car, and I'm like 100 pounds bigger than him, and it was pretty tight. All right. So Talkin' Giants, fellas, why don't, just in case the three people that listen to my podcast who don't listen to your podcast, why don't you introduce yourselves? Tell us what you're about. Tell us where we can find you, and then I have a question about just who you guys are, and then, kind of like your journey so far as a podcast. So don't tell too much about in your introductory thoughts, because I still want to hear more about you. Danny Boy King, why don't we start off with you? Who the heck are you?
Well, I'm just some kid that I was working for at Wegrin, and then Bobby stumbled across me. He's like, you want to do this podcast? And I was like, sure, I got nothing better to do. And then it basically took off from there. Yeah, no, yeah, it's been a fun journey to get to the point we are now. Now this being a first interview I'm ever doing, so journeys. Here we go, first time ever. So no, yeah, it was just fun. Like I started off by putting like maybe one or two things on my Twitter, getting the casual 0 likes, but now I get 3 likes and I'm jumping for joy. I'm like, this is my time. I'm taking over right now. You can find me at Danny King on Twitter.
And you were part of
NFL.
the Giants Nation Twitter page for a little while too, right?
Yeah, I did a live coverage of the games on that. That's where I really got my time started. My first game was the Washington Redskins game, and that was just a fun game to live tweet about. I got a lot of interactions there, and that's really where this love for this to do this podcast developed. Really
awesome. And you, Bobby?
All right, so you telling me to not say too much or what? Because I could talk for like 20 minutes on this whole journey, even though nobody cares.
Here, I'll so don't tell too much. Tell us where we can find you, even though I think people know where we can find you. And then also,
no, I
Simple Man. Yeah,
I guarantee you, there's people that listen to you that don't listen to us. Yeah, I tweet pretty much solely about the Giants. Like 9.5 out of every 10 tweets are about the Giants. You can follow me at Bobby Skinner NFL. Me and Danny put the NFL at the end of our handles. One, because neither of our names are available because some guy that tweeted 6 years ago owns at Bobby Skinner, and the NFL just makes you seem so much more important than you really are.
That is true. This is true. All right, so this is kind of the first question I want to ask, and this is kind of like about your journey so far as talking Giants, because actually, believe it or not, you guys have been grinding out content this entire offseason, and it's only been in 2019 you started. So that's kind of crazy in how far you guys have come. Especially shout out to John Boy Media, John Boy's absolutely awesome. I talk about him often. So basically, I want to ask you two to start off, describe and go into what it is like, what it's like to be podcasting within the Giants community, interacting with Giants Twitter, and how having a voice has been different than just casually being a fan. So I want you guys to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll lead it off. So I guess I'll do a quick journey until we joined John Boy. Me and my buddy Zach started Simple Man Radio a little over a year ago. Just talking national sports, and when we first started, it's like, okay, let's see what happens. Let's have a little fun, make some jokes. And then episode 3, I was gonna okay, I'll do interviews with my buddy from college who plays in the NFL Europe, and I know this guy and some people musical artists. And I was like, well, we'll get them on. I've helped some other people out. And then Shane Smith, who was the fullback at the time for the New York Giants, he gave us an interview on episode 3, and then it turned into Kamoko Toure from the Colts. I sent him a DM and he answered, and I love the guy, but I didn't he probably didn't realize how low budget we were. And then it just turned into interview after interview, and the more you get on your resume, the more you're able hey, Brandon Jacobs, we've had this people on, and so it just turned into that. And then around February last year, me and Danny, we were with Wegrin, started the Giants Nation podcast, and then got hooked up with John Boy. We got hooked up with Jake. Actually, when the Yankees were in the playoffs, I was posting stuff from the Simple Man Radio Instagram. They do the follow for follow thing, and I was like, oh, let's get I had no idea who they were, never even listened to an episode. I was like, all right, let's get this guy on the show. He's got a lot of followers. And then so that just turned into a relationship, and then eventually we talked about turning the Giants Nation podcast into Talkin Giants and Simple Man Radio coming over. And it's been a lot of fun, man. And we just been, like you said, grinding out content, trying to get stuff out quickly when it happens. And when Odell gets traded, there's a bump. When the day after the draft, there's a bump, and just taking advantage of every opportunity we can get.
Absolutely. Danny Boy King, tell us about your journey so far as a podcaster and as a voice of the Giants community.
Yeah, I already said, obviously, I started with Wegrin, then we went to John Boy with the Talkin Giants, but it's just been fun to interact with people that usually you wouldn't interact with before. As Bobby said, during the draft time, just the interaction, we got to talk about Daniel Jones, Shane Ximenez, DeAndre Baker. It's just been fun to see this whole process grind out to the way it is. And as you said, it's only been 1 year. We started this back in February, the week before or after the Super Bowl, and now we're almost at the start of the official NFL season. So it's only going to get better from here. But yeah, it's just been fun to have a voice in this community and just have some people listen. It's amazing, you know.
Yeah, and something me and Danny, try to do. Something I stress because I used to, when we were doing the Sil Man, I would tweet, I'd make jokes, but it was like nothing of substance. And so I like in the beginning of the year, I was like, all right, make your stuff matter. Like make it be like a voice people want to hear. So instead of saying, I don't like Wayne Gallman. I actually would rather have Rob Martin as running back. It's like, no, don't just say that. Put their stats up and their age and stuff like that. And so, or show video. So that's what me and Danny try and stress is not to just have a take, but have evidence when we do have a take.
Yeah,
Danny. Yeah.
That's what I did with my player breakdowns. I prove stats, and people were like, but what about this? And you just have a reason to show back, be like, well, here's that, or you're like, well, you're right in that aspect. So that's what we want to do. We want to put the facts to make sure everyone knows.
And I think that's one of the main differences between where you are putting yourself out there. You're putting your face, you're putting your voice, you're putting your opinion, you're putting a lot out there on the line, not to get too dramatic, but when you release something, you're putting yourself out there to be open to criticism, to be open to be praised, to be hoping to be ripped apart. And I know I'm one who, I'm open to all of those things, because the more that you interact with me, the more that, number one, I learn. I feel like I just love learning, including when I'm wrong, but especially the whole interaction piece of just getting different opinions. It's been really fun. It's been really, really fun, at least for me. And I can imagine it's been kind of the same sense for you guys as well.
Yeah, man. Like you said, just continue learning, and like, hey, how do you bouncing stuff off other people? So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, man. And like you said, man, we haven't even had games to talk about yet. So we're getting pumped for that. I'm so pumped for preseason week 1 more than I ever have been. And I get pumped, like Hall of Fame game, I get extremely pumped for. And then after the first quarter, it's like, all right, I'm looking at my phone more than the screen. But still, I'm just pumped for football, boys. I know you guys are too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
all right, go ahead, David. Yeah.
I actually have to say, I haven't really spoken much, a little insider information here. I haven't spoken much to either Danny or Bobby. This is actually the first time we're actually talking. I mean, I've been listening to you guys, but I have to say, I'm relatively new to Giants Twitter. Obviously, I follow the Giants religiously, but I really only got involved with Giants Twitter recently. And I think, Justin, it was you. I think Justin kind of pointed out, Bobby, you to me as somebody I should follow to just to see some valuable information on my Twitter feed for once. And I got to say, both of you guys, you do a great job. You put out informative information, and you don't make it you're not ready for an argument. You're not looking for an argument. You're just saying, this is what I think, and this is why it makes sense. And I'm going to try to help you maybe see something you haven't seen before. And I think that's really valuable in what can often be a very toxic environment and opinionated for absolutely no reason.
I appreciate. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm ready to argue. I think you guys have noticed. There's a few times where I'm like, all right, today's going to be a day I'm going to go at it, and I really do choose those days
when Bobby feels petty.
Yeah. It's usually the day after the Giants post a clip of Daniel Jones and people are over analyzing the release looks weird. I'm like, come on, what are we doing here? But I remember, like you said, I know when I just put Daniel Jones and Justin Herbert's numbers next to each other because everyone's like, Justin Herbert's this, that. Everyone's Justin Herbert's so great, and Daniel Jones' numbers are actually better than him, but everyone cursed Daniel Jones' numbers. And I made a point to not even put an opinion with it. I just put the numbers and watched chaos go off. And I literally heard the people who were like, you're a Daniel Jones stan. You're just saying all this stuff because he's on the Giants. Say the exact same arguments that people well, Justin Herbert had drops and he didn't have talent. It's like, man, that sounds a lot like a guy I know. But yeah, so if I know it's going to start an argument, I won't give the strongest opinion. But yeah. It's fun, man. It's fun to watch the world crash and burn. The Twitter crash and burn sometimes.
Daniel Jones starts it all. You mentioned something good about him. You get about 20 people coming in with all the bad about him.
Yeah.
Now, Bobby, that's a great transition because my first kind of big topic question, I have kind of 2 big topic questions, actually 3 big topic questions for the two of you. So, Bobby, I'm going to start with you because you've had an off season full of in-depth, and when I mean in-depth, you look up in-depth in the dictionary, you see Bobby Skinner's face and all the breakdowns that he's done this offseason as the definition. So, you, in my opinion, you've produced the most content out of any Giants creator this offseason, and most famously, your Daniel Jones threads where you rewatched every snap, then you rewatched every attempt over 20 yards, then you rewatched every third down, then you rewatched whenever he went and he took a dump, and you analyzed all of it.
He's got pretty, his dumps smell nice.
All right, so Bobby, give us some lessons, some themes that you have learned about Daniel Jones that are most important to know as a Giants fan. So maybe just some of the top things that you can pull from your head. I know you did that. I know you did those threads a while back. So you mentioned the comparison between him and Justin Herbert, but what are some other things that you pulled from your in-depth observations?
Well, basically, it was looking for what the flaw, like, one, you just want to watch and see what it is. And then, honestly, everything that I've done was by someone saying, like, no, he sucks. His deep ball's horrible. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got to watch every single deep ball. And I'm like, oh, well, he sucks on third down. It's like, all right, well, I guess I got to go watch every third down. The breakdowns were really the only thing, or the threads were the only ones that I just like, all right, let's do this. So people say he doesn't have a strong, his arm strength is very weak. Now, I don't think he has the strongest arm in the world. I don't think he had, like, Justin Herbert does have a stronger arm. Josh Allen has a strong arm. He's not a strong arm quarterback. But I went and looked, and there wasn't a single throw where it's like, man, if he got that in there a little quicker, that's a score. Like, I asked, and I was like, I was like questioning. I was like, was there one? Was there one? And going to rewatch. I'm like, there's not one. Like, find me one. So, and they do the velocity numbers of the combine. I think he's like the same as Darnold and Rosen, or if not, like a mile or two per hour off. But he's in line with, first round quarterbacks. So the arm strength, it doesn't seem like an issue to me. And by the way, how many times do we fall in love with these strong arm quarterbacks like Josh Allen, and they're just not good players? And I'm not even talking about Jamarcus Russell because he just didn't put in the work. He could have been a good QB. And two, the drops, man. The drops were unbelievable. I mean, I don't understand. Maybe he did because I only watched clip by clip instead of like watching a 3-hour game. So maybe he did blow up a time or two. But man, I don't understand how he didn't yell at his guys because I was yelling at them at the screen. I think he had 38 drops on the whole season. On third down, he had 15 drops, and on deep balls, 20 plus yards in the air from the line of scrimmage, he had 14 drops on 44 attempts.
Wow.
His completion percentage on deep balls goes from 27% to 59% when he throws the ball deep, and he threw the ball deep at 11% rate. And everyone said Haskins, he throws the ball downfield. Well, he actually threw the ball downfield at a lower rate than Jones and at a lesser percentage when you include drops. Haskins only had 4 drops. And Haskins' percentage jumps from 43 to 50, while Jones jumps from 27 to 59. He had nobody at Duke. I mean, there was just no playmakers. In the Temple game, you see some of his guys make plays, but it wasn't even like they broke 3 tackles. It was just like an outside shoulder throw. The corner jumped, and then they have the whole field in front of them. And then on his third down, he was 47 for 88, 517 yards, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So I didn't do the completion percentage math in my head, but I did. So that's 53%. But once you include the 15 drops, it jumps to 70%. Now, not every single one of those was behind the yellow line, but nonetheless, he was completing passes on third down.
Right.
And he's just a gamer. I mean, he people say he's not competitive. Like Dan Orlovsky's, and I know I'm rambling and going on forever right now, but Dan Orlovsky, I got into it with him pretty bad because he just gave a lazy take. I'm convinced that because Dwayne Haskins came on Get Up on ESPN, that he's like, I'm going to pick this guy because I'm going to pander to him. He's on my show. Daniel Jones is never coming on the show, and he's too nice to ever fire back. And he said, oh, well, and he used that Temple throw, which was his worst, maybe his second or third worst decision of the season, saying, when A plus B doesn't equal C, it goes wrong. And I went back and watched all of Josh Rosen's throw, who, Orlovsky loves from what I know, the exact same play. It's like, okay, maybe college QBs make a mistake here or there. But the thing, I don't even care about him not liking Jones. His take of, oh, well, Daniel Jones, I feel like he's too aw shucks to win. It's like, what the hell does that even mean, Dan Orlovsky? He's too aw shucks. And then I posted that clip. This was like right after the draft where it's 4th and 1. The running back is getting tackled as he's handed the ball off to the running back, and he's pretty much getting tackled. Jones rips the ball out of his hand and gets the first down and like dives forward. And I'm like, is that too aw shucks? The guy like, and he needs to do this. He never goes down when he's getting tackled. There wasn't maybe like 1 or 2 times where he was getting tackled and he just went down. Where it's like, dude, just go down. You're being wrapped up by 2 guys. Unless it's a Super Bowl like Eli Manning, just go down. He did take some unnecessary hits, but like what about him is all shucks besides his like personality off the field, which is like, don't we kind of want that in our quarterbacks? I mean, I'm not saying to be the most passive guy in the world, but I'd rather have that than what Baker Mayfield does. And Baker Mayfield, I kind of like that about him, but there's times where it's like, dude, just kind of get over like the Hugh Jackson thing, and I don't want to get into that. But anyways, I just don't understand where that was just a bad take. And there's guys like Jeff Schwartz, like when Baldy did he did a breakdown on his runs, and Jeff Schwartz, who I guess I'm calling out names right now, but I think he's one of the laziest people in sports media.
Oh, boy.
And he watches that breakdown, so he clearly hasn't seen any of Daniel Jones' film. All he's seen was Baldy's breakdown and saying running quarterbacks can't win. It's like, dude, you serious? You think Daniel Jones is a running quarterback just because he can run a little bit? Like, what about his tape makes you think Daniel Jones is like this read option Lamar Jackson? Like what are you talking about? And that's just a lazy take. Just say, oh, running quarterbacks don't win. It's like, yeah, I get the odds aren't against them, but how about judge each guy individually? So yeah, I just ripped off for like 10 minutes, but that's where I'm at Daniel Jones. Like there's like, yeah, he doesn't have the greatest arm strength in the world, but it's more than adequate. I love his decision making. He does take chances, and I don't know where a lot of the hate came from people just repeating people on TV, and I don't blame like regular people for that. Like, I'm not expecting you to be a freak like me and go and watch his tape 5 times. Like don't do that. Like if you're a normal human being, don't do that. But my problem is with the people on TV who like get paid to do this. It's like, man, you couldn't find a couple hours each day to like look at the first round quarterbacks at least. So that's where I'm at with Daniel Jones. I don't know if I answered anything.
That was beautiful.
No, you deserve a standing ovation after that.
I can't believe I was talking for that long. But we haven't done like Daniel Jones like talk in a while. We'll talk about here and there. And so that was like 5 episodes just put into one right there.
Really briefly, I want to point out you mentioned that aw shucks mentality, and I think it's so funny because I'm pretty sure I've heard people talk about Eli Manning with the aw shucks mentality, and it took him winning a Super Bowl 4 years into his career for that for the aw shucks personality to go from a weakness to a strength. So I think that's so overblown, and it's so lazy among Giants fans because we've seen that aw shucks personality win a lot of football games. So I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, it really is, man. And it's like, yeah, like, I like when Brady goes off. I like that. I like when it's here and there. But like, I mean, would you rather have? I don't know. It's like, why is being composed like a bad thing? Like, if he just doesn't care, and he's like, I'm trying to think of a QB who didn't care. I don't want to bomb on Jamarcus Russell twice in one show, but. Like a Jake Locker, like, okay, like if you're like, okay, this guy doesn't really love the game, but everything about this, like all like the stuff we've heard from behind the scenes from teammates, it's like all this guy cares about is football.
Yeah, one of the things that I've started to begin to understand, not only just from the help of yourself, but also rewatching every single 2018 offensive snap, like I'm doing, is that Daniel Jones probably, arguably, out of this year's QBs and also the 2018 QBs that were in that draft class, Daniel Jones probably fits best what Pat Shurmur wants to do on his offense better than any other quarterback. He has the strength of his versatility that he can move. He has pretty good pocket awareness. He reminds me, this is pretty much the only area maybe where he does remind me of Eli Manning when Eli Manning was earlier in his career, and that's his ability to stay in the pocket, keep his eyes downfield, and deliver a throw. That is one thing that Eli Manning did have in his prime, and he was the goddamn best in the NFL at doing it. So really, I have definitely been flipped. And it's been through, watching film, watching these breakdowns, reading about Daniel Jones, and shooing away from the national headlines and the national hot takes of, just because this guy doesn't do one thing flashy, that means that he is going to be a bad football player. And that's just a lazy take, as you pointed out.
Yeah, and it's like he was at Duke, so it's hard to learn about a guy when he's just not on TV. Like, I get that. And like I said before, like I don't expect people to go and watch every team. That's why I'm never unless somebody is just completely I've never been to a rational person online and been like, you don't watch the tape, you don't know what you're talking about. In fact, I mean, I don't really tell many people you don't know what you're talking about because I just think it's a jerk thing to say.
Right.
There's a few times where there was this person the other day, I just we're going just saying the dumbest things, and finally, and I put all those the third down, the deep ball, I put them all in blogs for the sole fact of being oh, you know what you're talking about, but I don't, and just dropping that. But I only do that to a few people, and they have to be real jerks,
right,
for me to be that petty.
All right, Danny Boy King, how you doing over there?
I'm doing good after that beautiful statement by Bobby on Daniel Jones.
I'm tearing up right now.
That wasn't a statement. That was not a statement. That was a thesis. That was something.
That was a declaration.
Yeah.
They need to play that at my funeral.
I'll clip it. All right. So, Danny Boy King, you yourself have gone into your own in-depth coverage and in-depth threads of almost the entire 2019 Giants roster and Giants team with your own player breakdowns. So basically, I want you to give us some of your thoughts on that. Who impressed you the most? Who was the biggest surprise when you were doing your research? Who was the biggest disappointment? Which player during one of their maybe, I know because you also put interviews, and that's what also I liked about your thread is that you put interviews of players, so you got a different chance to see a different side of them. So maybe which player during one of their interviews or personal lives stuck out to you the most? And I just gave you a lot of questions, so go with it as you may, please.
All right, so obviously chime in if you hear something or hear something you don't like.
Cameron Moore, pretty interesting. No.
All right, it's 10 o'clock at night now. Bobby's getting extra crazy.
All right, so the player that impressed me the most, I had to go with Aldrick Rosas. Just the improvement from 2017 to 2018 is incredible. His stats right here, on 32 33 attempts, he made 32 of them. He only missed one, and he missed one, I believe, with a hamstring injury. So you can't even get mad at the guy. And then an extra points on 32 attempts, he made 31. That because he was in the Washington game, the one he missed, and it was 40-16 at that point. So who cares? And Aldrick, it was just impressive. He was the number one rated kicker by Pro Football Focus. He beat out Justin Tuck, right there, one of the best kickers in the game, who struggled last year, to be honest. But Aldrick Rosas beat him out. Last year, he had a 97% completion on field goals compared to a 72 in 2017. So wow. Just the improvement he showed from year one to year two is miraculous in that aspect. So the player that surprised me the most, there could be some biases to it, but it was Grant Haley, the undrafted free agent out of Penn State. He was the 46th ranked cornerback in the NFL by Pro Football Focus. He only started playing he only played in 10 games. He got more playing time, obviously, after the Eli Apple trade, and he started at 9 in the game after Eli Apple got traded. So he's 5'9". He's a small guy. He's my height. He's 5'9". But he could hold his own against other quarterbacks. Now, as Bobby pointed out in a Talkin Giants episode, he had 131.1 completions by quarterbacks against him. So he gave up a lot of passes. But in a game that really stuck out to me, especially I feel like the Eagles game against Golden Tate, he held his own pretty well. Not anything miraculous, but he broke up one touchdown pass in that Eagles game, which really didn't help the Giants because they still lost. But it helped just his improvement from where he started out to being really struggling to the end of the season to being a starting cornerback. It was impressive to watch. And so now a player personal life that stuck out to me was John Halapio. He was drafted in the 6th round by the New England Patriots in 2014. He then got cut at the 53-man roster breakdown. Then he went to Denver. No, he went to the Experimental Football League in the fall. Oh. And then in December, he got picked up by Denver, but then he was cut. Then he went to Arizona. and then he was cut right after that. And then after Arizona, no team called. It was dead silent for him. And so he then became a used car salesman. He went from top of the world, being in the NFL, to being in rock bottom, selling used cars in Florida.
That's crazy.
I know.
Danny's just killing all the used car salesmen in Florida right now.
Honestly,
And so now he's a starting center for the New York Giants, and just where he went from, as I said, being a used car salesman to now probably going to be the starting center. He beat out his best friend in Brett Jones, who, heck, he made him get traded to the Vikings out of all that. So just seeing John Halapio's personal life really stuck out to me. He was like, man, that's just awesome right there. And so then a player that didn't really impress me that much, there's a few guys that didn't impress me, but if we're going on, I'm going to give two. One that was on the team last year, and then one that really he joined this year. My first player that I'm going to say didn't impress me that much that just joined the Giants was Marcus Golden. The guy, I mean, yes, he was injured last year, but that's not fair. I'm not going to say it because he was injured. I'm going to say Kareem Martin. Kareem Martin, let's go with a player that's on the Giants. Like, he didn't do anything of importance last year. He had like a few tackles here and there. He was just there because he fit James Betcher's scheme, and that's all he was really there for. So I don't like Kareem Martin. I'm not sure your guys' thoughts on Kareem Martin, but the guy doesn't stand out to me that much. And then the player joining the Giants this year that I just don't get, he was a disappointment to me last year, was Rod Smith, the running back that from the Dallas Cowboys. He sat behind Ezekiel. Yes, he had a few good games. One game I really remember was 2017 when he had like an 82-yard touchdown against the Giants, and watching that was very difficult. I just don't get the signing because you got Wayne Gallman and Paul Perkins. I feel like Paul Perkins could be the number 2 running back, but the Giants see something in Rod Smith based on Pat Shurmur. He seems to like him as a special teams guy. So my mindset is, could he be the running back number 3, Paul Perkins 2, and Wayne Gallman's off this team? That could be something that could happen in training camp. So yeah, that's a lot I just said, but let me know your thoughts on all that.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on Rod Smith, because there have been some people that have brought up the idea, and I don't even know if I agree with this, but there have been some people that brought up the idea that Saquon Barkley is going to be on maybe an innings limit, if you will, for for running backs in the NFL. So he's going to be on a touches limit. So do you think that there could possibly be a possibility that Rod Smith could be taking carries away from Saquon Barkley, maybe inside the red zone or in short yard situations? Is that something that you saw maybe the Cowboys use Smith at last year?
I don't see that. Saquon, this offense is going to be a lot of Saquon Barkley. They're going to need him to step up big, and teams are going to game plan him for more. I feel like last year they used Wayne Gallman in that situation a few times. Obviously, it really didn't work, but Rod Smith, he's a more stronger guy than Wayne Gallman. Wayne Gallman's more that agile guy. You can throw it to him down in a check down situation. He can gain you a few extra yards. Paul Perkins now. So I could see them using Rod Smith in that situation. But if they really wanted to, you got Elijah Penny, the fullback. He has played running back before in his career. You can put him back there, and he can run it right up the middle. You can hope for the best. So I could see Rod Smith being used in that situation, but I wouldn't be excited with it because he's not the best in that aspect.
All right, fellas, I want to ask you, I'm going to edit this part out. I'm going to ask you based off of time, just because I really appreciate your time. It is getting late. Is everybody okay? Are we good?
Yeah, oh, yeah, dude. At least I am. I don't know about
Okay. Danny.
I'm good.
You cut out there for a second, Danny. What you say?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay,
He
cool.
said screw you.
All right, so really there's two things that we have left, and I kind of want to get I'm going to edit this whole thing out. In order for the Giants to make the playoffs, these things must go right, and then we have a word association game. So are we down to do both of those things, or do we want to maybe just do one of those things?
Let's do both. The word
Let's do both.
association just got me excited.
Both, yeah.
All right, David, why don't you ask the question, in order for the Giants to make the playoffs, these things must go right. So editing ends right now.
yes, sir. This is so hard to start randomly.
We'll get, this is part of podcasting, David. So
No, I
so
know.
you'd be like, all right, fellas, this is
I don't use the word fellas. All right. So, personally, Justin and I, we went over in our last episode. We talked about roughly. We roughly got into how many games we expected this team
Oh my lord!
to be able to win. Is everything okay there, Danny?
No, there's like a thunder. I'm sorry, it just scared me.
Oh yeah, there's terrible storms here too.
Yeah, I just got sorry. My bad.
I was like, man, he really hates where we're going with
No,
this.
no, no.
So
All right.
Justin and I went over how many games we expected this team to win, and when obviously we didn't do the whole win loss that thing, that really fun thing that everybody enjoys doing. Yeah, I know.
But
So I'm curious. Justin's curious. In order for the Giants to make the playoffs this year, the following things must go right. Go.
All right, I'll start it off, and I'm 100% with you guys. Like, I think we might have to just do an episode where we do our 53-man roster and predict the win-losses. Just get the two things I don't want to do out in just one episode. But no, now I'm pretty confident in the playmakers. I don't really know where I'm at Eli, but I also know like his arm's still there. So if like he's willing to get it done, he can get it done. I think it all comes down to either the right tackle spot and left tackle, or James Betcher. And I'm not even going to like single out any defensive players because they are who they are. James Betcher knows that he doesn't have some crazy pass rusher on this team. He knows that he has young DB. So he's known for his schemes, his zone blitzes, his pitting 6 guys on the line, then dropping 3 and blitzing a corner. I think it's a lot on James Betcher because the defense is sketchy right now. We got a lot of young guys, but just because the guys are young and talented doesn't mean they're going to win. So I would say the biggest thing is James Betcher. Like I think he is on like his job is on the line like 10 times more than Shermer's is or Gettleman's is. And then on the offense, actually I'll let Danny say the offense.
The offense. Well, one, I 100% agree with the defense. This is a proven year for this defense. They have not been good since 2017. They need to be able to get stops and just help the offense out, get the back out on the field. But for the offensive side of things, if the season wants to go right, I really got the right tackle spot is a good option, but I feel like that position is going to be shaky either way. I'm going to say tight end. We need Evan Ingram, one, to stay healthy. Now, injuries, that's a part of him. We have to take it how it is. But he has sometimes a case of the drops, and he dropped some big passes in the early part of last season. He fixed that towards the end. One drop in particular I remember was the Washington Redskins game. When I forgot, it was the home Washington Redskins game. So Evan Ingram, he has all the potential in this world to be a Pro Bowl type tight end. He's a nightmare matchup for linebackers. His speed is unmatched. Him and George Kittle are like polar opposites, but George Kittle is obviously much, much better. Evan Ingram, his speed, as I said, he can run up the seam. No linebackers stand a chance against him. You can give him a quick drag route. He'll take that ball 10, 15 yards more sometimes. So Evan Ingram needs to be huge for this offense. I feel like Eli needs to have the faith in his tight end. You got Jeremy Shockey, but he got injured 2007, but Eli had faith in him. You got Kevin Boss in the 2011 season. So Eli likes his tight ends, and even for future use, Daniel Jones liked his tight end out of Duke. Daniel Jones and Evan Ingram, they need to be a thing. But this season, it needs to be Eli and Evan Ingram on that offense because Eli, he just needs to have some options more as well.
All right. Cool. So how we're going to wrap up, and want to thank you guys for your time. You guys are absolutely awesome. This has been a ton of fun. But one of the things that we did towards the end of our interview with Dan Schneier is we did a word association game. So basically we gave him a word that was prevalent in Giants land, or he went to the University of Wisconsin, so we threw out like the University of Minnesota, which is a rival Big Ten school, and his comment was safety school, and I thought that was the biggest shots fired. I loved it.
You know what? Screw the University of Minnesota. I played college in Minnesota, and I'm a Florida guy, so the U is the U, and that's a national thing. But they all call the University of Minnesota the U. And it kind of made me a Hurricane fan because I was just defending it so much there. So Minnesota people, stop calling Minnesota the U.
So you and Dan Schneier,
Minnesota and you hate Buffalo.
You and Dan Schneier have that connection.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to bring that up next time.
Bleeding Blue Podcast has just become like enemies of the state of Minnesota. That's what I'm hearing from this conversation.
Pretty much.
Awesome.
All right, so Bobby, we'll start off with you. And Danny, no, we'll go to both of you. But Bobby, this first one is directed especially towards you. Our first word is jersey burning.
Oh, the greatest thing to ever happen online. It just really is. Like the people who are like, "Oh, that's dumb." It's like, yeah, I know it's dumb, but it's so entertaining. And it's just true fandom. I love it. Obviously, there's some people who are doing it just for the likes and retweets, but I just think it's one of the best things of all time. As soon as a guy leaves a team, I'm looking for jersey burnings. It's just one of my favorite things of all time.
The word I'm gonna use is it's just stupid. I mean, like I've had Odell jersey. I paid hundreds of bucks for that jersey. It's staying in there. I ain't touching it anymore. But I'm not burning. I paid good money for it. It's gonna stay the way it is. It'll be memorabilia. It'll be like when fans remember Odell when he comes back.
I'll Venmo you $50 right now to burn it, Danny.
All right, I'll give you my Venmo and I'll burn it.
Wait till Friday when I get paid.
Simpleman Radio Twitter page. I'll be looking Friday morning.
Look at
It'd
this
be so
moron,
late that it would be huge. It's like, dude, they got traded like 3 months ago. Like the whole Giants fans can't get over it thing would be really put on us. Like, dude, you're burning the jersey 3 months afterwards.
It'll be good to talk about on the show. But like, look at this idiot burning his jersey. Oh wait, that's Danny.
You know what we should do is we should burn a Baker Mayfield jersey and be like, I just came back from the future. Look at this video. Sorry, Cleveland fans.
All right, David, why don't you tell us the next word?
All right, next word, MetLife Stadium.
Garbage.
I like it.
Danny.
The design is awful. I mean, come on. Like, I'm walking to it. You see Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. That thing is like a palace down there. You arrive to MetLife Stadium. It's just like metal grates on the outside. It's like we're the New York. There's 2 teams in the stadium. We can't put a few more $1 million into it to build a nicer designed stadium. And also, I mean, I know like outdoor games are fun, but like I was at 2 games last year. It's pouring rain on us. Like, I want a dome. Just give me a dome. That's just me being wet. So I like MetLife Stadium. Like on Sundays, it's the most beautiful stadium. But like out of that, it's like, man, this stadium is ugly.
Danny just ripping Giant MetLife. I'll have to go. My word association is the Giant Insider podcast. Shout out to them because that's literally how our rivalry started. Even though I don't dislike them anymore. I don't want to give that whole story. But basically, they said something about the stadium. I made a joke, and it all went downhill from there.
We are also enemies of the Giant Insider podcast.
I actually reached out to them. They never got back to me. But
wow.
They blocked me for no reason. I just looked on their page one day, and I'm blocked. I'm like, what?
Wait, am I the only one here who's not blocked by them?
It's because you're not tweeting, David.
That's true.
Guaranteed, they're gonna see that some kind of other podcast is in your bio, and then that's gonna be like a no.
I actually have tweeted at them, and I actually have replied to things that they've tweeted, and we've had good conversations about it.
They hate me for good reason. Like,
I'm an enemy of the state, apparently. So,
like, I won't go into it, but they hate me for good reason. I was pretty ruthless.
All right,
it was a petty Bobby day.
It wasn't even that. It was just me trying to crack jokes, and they got mad, and I was like, "Oh, you're mad? Well, I'm gonna double down on this." Like I made fun of them, like using like the word, like his name Chris in parentheses. Like I just went in on that. Like it's so dumb by me. Anyways, I've learned my lesson though. Don't mock people that you might like try to do work with eventually. That's why I haven't said anything about Bleeding Blue yet.
Oh, wow.
Just kidding, fellas. I love y'all.
I love that.
In fact, I've said way more worse things to you, Justin, than I have ever, Giant Insider.
Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate that.
Well, yeah. Well, I know you can take it when I can bust balls a little bit.
Well, also, I mean, here's how I look at it. When Curtis Riley replied to my tweet and called me a fat boy,
greatest moment of my life. That was amazing.
It got me clout. It got me attention. The video got like a couple hundred views. It wasn't going to do anything if Curtis Riley didn't reply to it. So I'm like, thank you, Curtis Riley. I'm kind of rooting for you now, but I hate milk.
I do too. I've only had 1 glass of milk my entire life, besides as a child. But yeah, since I was off the bottle, I've only had 1 glass of milk. I don't eat cereal because I don't drink milk.
Give it about a month, and Justin's going to have a whole gallon of it. It's gonna be
I know. I can't wait. I told him
amazing.
earlier that I'm forcing him to drink it.
Because the Raiders are awful, and he's going to make the team.
I can't wait for it.
My hand is in my face right now. All right, our next
milk in that face eventually.
Oh, da-dum-cha. Next name or next word. Ben McAdoo.
The most I've ever disliked someone in sports ever. I mean, the Eli benching, I mean, it was the most like I've ever did. I mean, because listen, the guys that you were a fan of in your childhood, there's always special something. Like Jason Kidd, I don't care how bad of a head coach he is, I always want him to get a job. Like I'll always be a Jason Kidd stan. And Eli Manning, he's like the only guy left from my childhood that I was a fan of. And at that time, it's like for Geno Smith, it just didn't make any sense. I mean, I watched Eli Manning videos all night. In fact, I made an oath that as long as Eli Manning is the quarterback or Tom Coughlin's the head coach, I will always predict the Giants to win the game. And that was the first game in the past since 2006 that I predicted the Giants to lose, and I boycotted it.
So there's a lot of words I could use for Ben McAdoo, but I'm just gonna use the piece of, and then I'm gonna bleep. You all know what that POS.
Oh,
I actually shed a tear watching Eli's emotional conference in his locker room. I was like, I'm crying about an NFL quarterback getting benched for one game. But the reason, it just to also the logical aspect, Geno Smith, he was never the answer. Daily News released an article that year saying Geno Smith can be the next Drew Brees. I'm like, what are we smoking right now, everyone? Like, what do we have that day? And now, if it was Davis Webb, I feel like the reaction, yes, it would have been bad, but people would be like, all right, it could be the future. But Geno Smith, we all saw what he brought to the Jets. He's nothing. Ben McAdoo was a terrible coach, and who knows what he's doing right now. He's probably just sitting down and just laughing at the Giants, actually.
Him and Geno Smith are talking about their flat earth theories.
That's coming to Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving.
I know. You don't understand how many people that I've met in like real life that actually think the earth is flat. In fact, when people bring it up, I literally will dodge that conversation as quick as possible.
I called him stupid, and now I'm like, but now he's on a team like, all right, his opinion is valid. It matters. Everyone's opinion matters.
Hey, I don't care if my players are idiots as long as they're good.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, next one.
Yes, sir.
Do it. So this next one, Justin and I went back and forth a little bit whether or not we were going to include it, and I just absolutely love asking people what they think when they hear this name, Matt Dodge.
I have ruined.
You go for it first, Danny.
Hot garbage. Hot garbage is how I'm going to describe that guy. Tom Coughlin told you to just punt it out of bounds. You're not good. You can't punt it in bounds if you just suck at punting. And then watching Deshaun Jackson just run that down, doing the high kicks into the end zone, waiting to run in. He's like, I'm not going in yet. It was the most infuriated thing I've ever seen. And just Tom Coughlin going up to Matt Dodge and just ripping him one just was – and every year the NFL posts that clip. And I'm like, why? Just stop posting it. It's over. But now he's back in Philly. He's going to do something again to us, I can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's crazy is we had Jeff Fiegels before that forever. Like he played, I think he's played the most games in a row in NFL history is Jeff Fiegels. And then it's like, all right, let's try this Matt Dodge kid out. Now what I think about is my friend who like every single year or every single I'll go over his house and he'll just play Deshaun Jackson scoring a touchdown for me. And he's not even an Eagles fan, he's a Dolphins fan. But he just does that to me and sits there and makes me watch it. So I think of my buddy when that happens. So just a rough day. I remember being at my grandpa's house that day, and I don't go to my grandparents a lot, and they're up 31-7. It's like, yep, Giants win this game, and then heading back home before the game ends, and it's like it's tied, and then we lose. Bad day.
Yeah.
Your favorite Giants player of all time?
Bobby, you go first.
Let's see. Well, I was a fan when Kerry Collins was the quarterback, but I wasn't like a diehard football fan at the time. I guess I'll say Eli Manning because that's the easy one. I was in like 7th grade when he was drafted, and that's when I started getting big into sports. But to say anyone besides Eli Manning, it was actually Jeremy Shockey. I was a huge Jeremy Shockey fan coming out of Miami. He was a beast at the time, even before Eli came. I mean, he was like a top 3 tight end at the time. And then as you get older, you just I don't know. I don't really have favorite players anymore. So I'll have to go Jeremy Shockey. But it's weird. The Giants are my number 1 team, but there's really not like a player that I associate them. It's just the Giants. Whereas like the Nets, Jason Kidd, the Devils, Marty Brodeur, Yankees, Jeter, and then the Giants is just like I just love the Giants. But yeah, I'd say Eli Manning because he's like I associate him with my Giants childhood.
I'm gonna go with Jason Pierre-Paul. Maybe not now. Obviously, he's not as good as he was then, but he was just that 2011 year blocking the field goal. Just how key of a defensive player he was, being a leader back then. I just really looked up to Jason Pierre-Paul. Like, man, that guy, he's just so good at what he does. Then obviously he blew off his hands, and now he broke his neck this offseason. So it's not a good offseason for Jason, but I still root for Jason even though he's in Tampa. I was bummed to see him get traded, but I mean, he wasn't really contributing much. But I had fond memories of Jason Pierre-Paul back in the day.
Yeah, and I don't judge people that have firework accidents.
Bobby, you love fireworks.
Yeah, I had a firework accident this year, but like I said, I don't judge people because stuff happens. Sometimes stuff happens when you're, have a $70 million contract on the line, but stuff does happen.
Oof. All right, David, you want to ask a random question, and then we're gonna have our last word association, and then we're gonna wrap up.
Okay, it goes along with favorite Giants player of all time. So I'm sitting here thinking about my own favorite player of all time, and I find myself with all the usual suspects. You got Eli Manning, Michael Strahan, all these guys. I want to ask. It's what I think of as the Chase Blackburn player. So, who is your favorite Giant that really wasn't very good, but just kind of encapsulated what you love about the Giants and what you love about the game of football, or something? This guy just did this really well, and I loved him for it, and he got us wins. Unsung players. For me, it's Chase Blackburn. That's why it made me think of it.
That's Chase Blackburn's a really good one, and he's like a really good person too. Now, while you were saying, before you even said that, I was thinking man, Brandon Jacobs, I really liked him. But I don't think he doesn't fall into that category. So I'm going to go, running back, no. Fullback, no. Tight end, maybe a Kevin Boss. On the O-line, I look at all five of those guys on that O-line were studs. Yeah. Defense, all those guys were studs. Linebacker. Oh, Kawika Mitchell. I really like Kawika Mitchell. That interception against the Bills.
Yeah.
He was just kind of a guy that was in the right place at the right time. He ended up getting a contract after that. Just Kawika Mitchell is like when you think of him, you think of this. You don't even think of oh, what a career. You just think of winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's a good question. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like his choice really isn't as inspiring, but just Antrell Roll. I was just a big fan of Antrell Roll. He was a big leader to this team and in that safety position as well. He was our really last good safety until we got Landon Collins. So I was a big fan of Antrell Roll, just the leadership he brought to the team and how he helped us win games.
Nice.
Ramses Barden was supposed to be that guy, but it didn't happen.
Don't get Justin started.
The next Plaxico Burress.
I held out on Barden forever. I mean, I held on to that as long as I could.
All right, our final word association question. The 2019 New York Football Giants season.
Greatness.
Woo. Oh man, I think my reaction right there is what it is. It's I don't know. I really don't I feel like the ceiling is high and the floor is low with this team. I mean, so many things. But I'll use my head and I'll say the start of the Daniel Jones era.
Ooh.
I love it. Bobby, Danny, thank you so much for coming on. Especially this ran certainly longer than what I thought, and I appreciate you sticking around. I appreciate the enthusiasm. Talkin' Giants, as of right now, has 23 5-star ratings on the Apple Podcast app. They don't ask for it every single episode. Here at Bleeding Blue, I do ask for it because I'm a jerk. Please, go give Talkin' Giants a 5-star. No, not just give them a 5-star rating. Write them a nice review. Tell them that you really enjoyed the episode with Bleeding Blue, and you would love to have Justin on their show again. Tell them that. Yeah, do that, and get Talkin' Giants up on the 5-star ratings. Support your local fan podcast because we work really hard. Bobby and I, Danny, David, we all work really, really hard at what we do. We think that we do a good job. We hope that you all enjoy it. We want to keep on growing that fan community and that fan perspective. And keep on bleeding blue, fellas, and let's go Big Blue.
Let's go Big Blue. Appreciate it, guys. A lot of fun.
Yeah,
Hey,
but
beautiful.
what-
everybody.
All right, we will be back next week. We will be starting our previewing the Giants, where every single day we will have a Giants episode previewing a certain Giants player that will be starting July 31st. Is that next week? I have no clue. I have no sense of time, but this week or next week is Giants training camp. So go Giants. I never know how to wrap up a podcast. Goodbye. Thank you for listening. Peace.